News returns. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi is ready to face any charges that may be filed against him in court. This comes after the Senate adopted a resolution seeking to file charges against him and other department officials over the Malampaya buyout. Harlene Delgado will tell us why.
Senate Committee on Energy Chairperson Sherwin Gatchalian, together with his lawyers, trooped to the Office of the Ombudsman to refer the Senate resolution seeking to file criminal and administrative charges against Department of Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi and other DOE officials over the Malampaya deal. Gatchalian believes Cusi and 11 other DOE officials committed gross neglect of duty and grave misconduct and are liable for graft for approving the sale of Chevron Philippines' 45% share in the Malampaya gas project to UC Malampaya, a subsidiary of Dennis Uys Udena Corporation, despite the latter's alleged lack of financial qualification. The senator also turned over to the Ombudsman the chairman's report and other documents that were used during the hearings.
Ako sana nagnanais na sa lalong madaling panahon maimbestigahan kaagad dahil itong Malampaya tuloy-tuloy ito as we speak. Ito ay nag-ooperate, nagpo-produce ng gas at malalagay ito sa alanganin kung hindi maayos po ang magpapatakbo nito.
In a statement, Cusi says he is ready to face any charges to be filed in court and to prove that all actions made by the DOE regarding the deal are legal, above board, and within the powers of the department. The secretary adds he finds it unfortunate that the issue has been politicized by those whose business interests he believes must have been put in jeopardy as he performed his duties as energy secretary. Cusi also took a swipe at Gatchalian for labeling the Malampaya issue as quote-unquote defective, lutong Macau and graft-ridden, which the secretary calls an insult to the DOE officials and employees. Cusi alleges that the committee hearings were intended to force him out of office and invalidate the Malampaya deal. The secretary hopes that he will be vindicated of what he calls malicious and baseless accusations against him and the DOE. Harlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. President Rodrigo Duterte has expressed his support to Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi on the issue of Malampaya deal. In an official statement, the president said the Energy Secretary still has his full trust and he shall remain at the helm of the department he heads. In line with this, President Duterte is calling on legislators to ensure that the ability to compete is not jeopardized by political intrigues. He also told them to leave business transactions in the capable hands of the business sector.
The National Capital Region Police Office warned police officers, especially those who went a wall, to surrender their guns to police stations. Leia Ilagan reports.
Ahead of the 2022 national and local election, the National Capital Region Police Office, or NCRPO, launched Operation Bawi, which seeks to recover firearms from uniformed personnel who have been dismissed from police service, suspended, or gone AWOL. The operation yielded over 300 government-issued firearms from February 17, 2021 to February 1, 2022. PNP Chief Police General Junardo Carlos said, based on NCRPO reports, most of the recovered firearms are 9mm pistols with serial numbers. They also recovered bulletproof vests and magazines.
363 issued firearms ang ating pong nabawi sa ating LOI Bawi at ito ay ngayon ibinabalik natin sa arsenal ng ating PNP para magamit ng iba po nating mga kasama sa kanilang pagsiservisyo. So congratulations sa ating mga NCRPO police for this effort.
The weapons were immediately turned over to the Office of the Regional Supply Accountable Officer NCRPO for proper disposition. Carlos said the PNP will continue to intensify its measure to confiscate and recover the missing government-issued firearms from policemen. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration sees countries gradually demanding for more workers as they recover from the pandemic. Here are some job opportunities for Filipinos planning to work abroad.
Philippine Overseas Employment Administration sees in-demand job opportunities in countries that are planning its economic recovery. Job opportunities include healthcare workers. However, POEA will still implement the deployment cap, only allowing around 7,000 to work in other countries. Job opportunities for seafarers and those in manufacturing services or logistical needs will also be in demand. Countries may also offer employment for professional workers including engineers, architects, and those who have web-based skills or information and communications technology which will be utilized for off-site works.
Yung ating mga traditional na labor markets ay unti-unti nang nagbumukas. So yung mga dating mga job orders natin doon ay nakakapagpadala na rin tayo ng mga panibagong mga manggagawa. Yun nga lamang ay kailangan nating sundin yung mga health protocols na kanilang itinatupad. Kung kaya yung mga nasa pipeline o yung mga dati nang nakapag-apply, i-check po natin kung bukas na po yung bansa na pupuntahan natin.
The administration also reminded Filipino workers who are planning to work abroad to prepare the necessary basic documents. OFWs need to secure overseas employment certificate, work permit, valid visa, employment contract, and their unified vaccination certificate issued by the government.
Iba-iba na po kasi yung mga restrictions sa bawat country of destination na pupuntahan ng ating mga OFW. Kung kaya, i-double check po natin bago tayo aalis, baka mayroong panibagong restriction na ini-implement yung ating mga pupuntahan na bansa at nang sa gayon ay hindi po tayo magka-aberya sa pag-alis.
Meanwhile, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration is now preparing for the arrival of more returning Filipinos as requirements for inbound travelers ease. OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak said they expect around 3,000 returning OFWs will arrive in the country on a daily basis. It is also mandatory for the agency to transport them to their respective regions. POEA reiterates the importance of the role of local government units to aid in the national government's program.
Yes, that's right. There is a big role to play on the part of LGUs. Kahit noon pa man naman, kuya, talagang may papel na ang LGUs sa pagsundo, paghatid ng kanilang mga constituents. So, lalo na ngayon, lalo na ngayon, kasi lalaki ang volume na tinatransport natin.
It was February 1 this year when the Philippines lifted mandatory facility-based quarantine for fully vaccinated inbound travelers. POEA reports that the country already spent 16 to 17 billion pesos since 2020 for the expenses of returning OFWs who took mandatory facility-based quarantine in hotels. The new policy for fully vaccinated inbound travelers will help the government save funds and divert them into another program for OFWs. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, U.S. forces had successfully performed a military operation in Syria, which resulted in the death of Islamic State leader Abu Ibrahim al-Qurashi. Justin Masakayan reports.
President Joe Biden announced Thursday that U.S. military forces in the northwest Syria has successfully undertook a counterterrorism operation and that the leader of the Islamic State group Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Quraishi was killed during an overnight raid. The head of the Islamic State group was nicknamed Destroyer. He presided over massacres of Yazidis before assuming the leadership.
The United States military forces successfully removed a major terrorist threat to the world, the global leader of ISIS, known as Haji Abdullah. Our forces carried out the operation with their signature preparation and precision, and I directed the Department of Defense to take every precaution possible to minimize civilian casualties.
He added that in a final act of desperate cowardice, al-Quraishi detonated a bomb that killed himself along with his own family members. The president mentioned Quraishi's death removed a major terrorist threat to the world. Meanwhile, the American chief executive expressed his gratitude to the bravery and determination of the troops who carried out the challenging mission. Al-Quraishi was the successor of the group after the United States counterterrorism operation that killed the Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in October 2019. Justin Masakayan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A plausible endgame for COVID-19 might occur in the nearest future as European countries scrap restrictions. Jane Robles reports why live. Yes, Jane?
Cass, Russian President Vladimir Putin said his government is considering loosening some coronavirus restrictions to give people the opportunity to continue working for peace. President Putin assured its members that they are not planning any lockdowns or other additional restrictions. These include limitations for those who come into contact with COVID-19 patients who currently must self-isolate for 7 days. His remarks came as the country registers daily record, which is 10 times higher than a month ago. However, Regional Director for Europe Hans Kluge said the region is entering plausible endgame to the pandemic, with the number of deaths caused by coronavirus starting to plateau. He also highlighted the singular opportunity to control transmission is through high vaccination in the European region, which could be seen as a ceasefire. Among the European countries who have dropped all COVID restrictions are the United Kingdom, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Cass?
Thank you, Jane Robles, reporting live. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, plans to crash the International Space Station, or ISS, by 2031. Nerissa Dando will tell us why, live. Yes, Nerissa?
Good evening, Kath. The International Space Station, also known as the Spacecraft Cemetery, will continue to operate until 2030, after which NASA will plunge into the Pacific Ocean, known as Point Nemo. According to NASA, the plan to retire ISS will be the start of transitioning to low Earth orbit activities. The transition report related to this was published after the administration of President Joe Biden said that it is committed to extend the space station's activities from 2024 until 2030. However, this extension will require support from all the international partners, as it is only approved to operate until 2024. Meanwhile, the said space station, which was launched in 2000, has since orbited over 420 kilometers above Earth with more than 200 astronauts from 19 different countries. Kath?
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, for that report live from Japan. On his visit to New York after the deaths of 2 New York police officers, U.S. President Joe Biden addressed the plan to reduce the nation's gun violence. Therese Longbowen will tell us the details live. Yes, Therese, go ahead.
Good evening, Kath. Gun violence still remains a problem of the United States. And to tackle this, many of the public have demanded the defunding of police services, but the president believes otherwise. The U.S. President Joe Biden claims that the answer to reducing gun violence in the nation is not to defund police services, but to fund those services which will protect the community.
It's time to fund communities, community police, and the people who are going to protect them. Look, as I said, we're not about defunding, we're about funding and providing the additional services you need beyond someone with a gun strapped to their shoulder.
To reduce such violence, Biden has also proposed a plan for the year, with the first step being to stop the flow of firearms being used to commit violence.
First, we want to crack down on the flow of firearms used to commit violence. That includes taking on and shutting down rogue gun dealers. And it's about doing background checks, as well as outright selling, making sure that people who are not allowed to have a gun don't get the gun in the first place. And again, for any of the press listening, this doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right.
The president also addressed threat of ghost guns, which are guns assembled at home, have no serial number, therefore cannot be traced. These guns being identified more frequently now in crime scenes.
The department is launching an intensified national ghost gun enforcement initiative to determine and deter criminals from using those weapons to cover their tracks. If you commit a crime with a ghost gun, not only are state and local prosecutors going to come after you, but expect federal charges and federal prosecution as well.
Meanwhile, President Biden also planned to reduce gun violence by providing employment and services catered for teenagers and young adults, such as counselors, and to help those formerly incarcerated to return back to their community. Kath?
Thank you, Charisse Longbowen, for that live report. A study from Nature Portfolio Journal, or NPJ, Climate and Atmospheric Science showed that ice from Mount Everest's highest glacier is melting in great speed due to climate change. To collect data from the world's highest mountain, a group of scientists and climbers visited in 2019, collected samples, and installed the world's 2 highest automatic weather stations. The report also showed that after the glacier's ice became exposed, it cannot reflect the radiation from the sun, which makes the ice melt more rapidly. Other factors include a drop in humidity levels and stronger winds. The rapid glacier ice melt could result into worsening climate impacts such as more frequent avalanches, drying up of water sources for around 1.6 billion people that depend on the mountain ranges for drinking, irrigation, and hydropower. Researchers are hoping that this information is a call for the world to act against human-sourced climate change. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
A solo parent in Liberia needed to beg for alms in front of a supermarket when everything seemed to go sideways for him after an accident. But now he has his own store. Thanks be to God. Here's the story of Emmanuel Grant and how he witnessed firsthand that MCGI cared.
Emmanuel Grant wanted to have a happy family with a woman he married. But what used to be happiness turned into tragedy after what happened one day in the woods in Dupor Road, Paintsville, Liberia.
The sla cleared my 2 legs were on me and mashing. So there was no way in the forest to walk for 3 hours with Kino Greenville. I had to put me on car.
After the accident came another tragedy when his wife left him.
I was not having money. I was just on the bed eating hospital food. So she cannot bear it. So she left.
Because of how his legs are now, he can't go back to cutting down trees in the woods. He was left with no other choice but to beg for alms in front of a supermarket in order to feed his 3 children. His life seemed to have fallen apart. The solo father only wishes to have a source of income to make ends meet without the need to beg for food.
I want to establish a business, but it will not be the chlorine to sell food store, rice, oil, fita, onion. When I got the opportunity, I sell struck iron all. The business I want to do will be already, my mind will be resting.
To bring livelihood, peace of mind, and a new hope to Emmanuel's family, Members Church of God International granted his wish with God's help and guidance. MCGI surprised him with items to sell. to be able to start his own store. MCGI also made sure that their home would be bright come nightfall. So the next gift, solar-powered light.
What I have to say, I say I'm so happy, and I thankful to God and also to the church for them to come in Liberia to help to see this old man and help. Because while this one I was not expecting it, I was not having it in my house. So I'm so happy, and God will be with the church.
Akbenamao, thanks be to God for another opportunity to help a fellow man in need. May God bless Emmanuel's store for it to be profitable and for the family to survive and also pay it forward. MCGI will remain as a humble instrument of God's wondrous works unto all colors, languages, and races, because MCGI cares.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 9, verse 9, it says, "Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning." And those are the reasons behind the news, February 4, 2022. I am Harlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo, Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Thio. We serve the people. We give glory to God.